we are going to give the time to Representative Green from Tennessee. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The crisis in Venezuela is tragic. Millions of citizens disenfranchised, nearly 2,000 are imprisoned, including children. Dozens have been killed protesting the violation of their rights, all while the government issues this constant stream of lies and propaganda. But it's really not new. It's all too familiar. The methods of repression that we've seen in Venezuela in recent weeks are textbook Cuban tactics for crushing dissent, terrorizing people. And it's hardly surprising to those of us who've been paying attention. The expansive Cuban presence in Venezuela answers a lot of questions about the nature and intentions of the Maduro regime. Back in 2021, under the Trump administration, the State Department reported, and I quote, "The Cuban intelligence and security apparatus has infiltrated Venezuela's security and military forces, assisting Nicolas Maduro to maintain his stronghold over his people while allowing terrorist organizations to operate freely." As Maria Corina Machado said in a recent interview, and again I quote, "We have known for a long time that Cuba has had a terrible impact in multiple areas, in methods of repression, persecution, espionage, and torture. And we've seen truly heartless things in recent days. But not only are these tyrannical tactics similar, the U.S. response to them is also strikingly familiar. Just as Democrats turned a blind eye to the Cuban repression and the Biden-Harris administration relieves pressure on the Cuban government, so too are we seeing the same thing happening with our diplomatic relations with Venezuela. Despite the Trump administration's refusing to recognize the fraudulent Maduro regime in 2019, along with the EU and 14 other countries in the Western Hemisphere, the Biden and Harris administration decided to change course and bring the Maduro regime back into the fold. From releasing a criminal and high-ranking Maduro ally to providing sanctions relief leading up to the stolen election, this administration paved the road on which Venezuelans and their rights were trampled by Nicolas Maduro. Evil flourishes in the absence of strength. Given the abject failure of this administration to maintain strength and diplomacy with both Cuba and Venezuela, my question is this: what is the administration planning to do or say about the malign Cuban influence in Venezuela that is helping Maduro in his refusal to accept the will of the Venezuelan people and terrorize those demanding respect for their vote? And I'll go with you, Ambassador Sullivan.
Thank you, Congressman. I would say that certainly we've all been horrified by the increasing repression we've seen in Venezuela, particularly since the electoral result. My colleagues have detailed some of the really disturbing aspects of that, including the targeting of minors in some cases. These are...
Yeah, you don't have to go back over the horrible things that have happened to consume time. Just tell me, first let me just ask this, is Maduro being helped by Cuba to stay in power?
Yes.
Okay, so what are we doing about that?
So you mentioned some of the reports and assessments that the U.S. government has done in the past on Cuban involvement in Venezuela. We have not seen recent specific information on that in terms of their involvement in recent days, but it's something we're continuing to monitor and can address when we have a clear case.
You're avoiding the question or the answer to the question. I mean, you're doing more research. Got it. You're digging more in to figure out their degree of involvement.
I'll be happy.
What are we doing to stop it?
I'll be happy to take your question back, and we'll provide you with additional information.
Okay. How has, again, to you, and I think your title it's Deputy Secretary, right?
Deputy Assistant Secretary.
Yes, Deputy Assistant Secretary. My apologies for that. How has the Maduro regime's, crackdown and corruption and all this pushed immigration into the United States?
Well, Maduro's misrule over the last several years has resulted in the outflow of over 7 million Venezuelans. Some of them have left because of direct political repression, others because of the economic failures of Maduro. In any case, they're all really related to the way Maduro has run Venezuela over the last several years. We've seen over the last couple of years in particular a heightened outflow. My colleague Greg Howell talked about some of the efforts we've undertaken with others in the region to help the whole region cope with the impact of those outflows.
Do you know how many people have come across from Venezuela, flown from Venezuela to the United States as part of this program that the DHS Secretary has put together to just bring people from rogue regimes into the United States? Can you get me that number if you don't have that number?
I can take your question back about the number of Venezuelans who've participated in what I think you're referring to the increased lawful pathways that
Well, it wasn't lawful. Even the administration admitted that that new program violated laws. So the flights that I'm talking about into the interior of the United States from Venezuela, I'd like the number from what state thinks it is. And if you can get that to me in writing later.
Okay, we'll take that question back. Thanks.
I yield.
Thank you, Representative Green. Now I recognize Ranking Member Castro from Texas.